Panelists a round of applause again, please, for their honesty and for coming together today. We have a short period of time for comments, questions, anything anybody wants to say. This is your moment. We're going to be ending soon, but first we want to hear from you. I see. You want to just introduce yourself also? That's okay. You can do it for yourself.
I agree, it is a human rights issue. I stand by the legislation of the Equal Opportunities Act. I do believe that maybe there's always need for amendment of any law, no matter what law is it. And maybe we need to look at the amendments to further bring in. We must remember the former Prime Minister of England, Tony Blair, when he was bringing the HRA Act to England, quoted Trinidad and Tobago as one of the few nations in the world that looks at the issues of rights of individuals, of their nations, and he talked about the Equal Opportunities Act. And I was advised that the HRA Act may be in some trouble in England. Maybe if Mr. Cameron thinks better, he would keep the HRA Act and make amendments to it. Women in public life in Trinidad and Tobago I think, has skyrocketed. Now, in all forms of public life, whether it be in the politics, whether it be at the state level, private level, and even in the judiciary. And lover or hater, Kamala Prasad, Visesa Senior Counsel, broke a barrier in this country of becoming the first female prime minister, whether you like her or you don't, all right? Because at a point in time, no one thought that a female person could have even been a member of parliament. Okay, I'll wrap it up now, right? I just want to ask that if IGDS, there's an issue in Trinidad and Tobago, which is the youth policy. A youth policy needs to be looked at proper, coming from the youth organizations of this country. We need to look at that further, and if maybe you all, IGDS, can look at that in any way you all can. Maybe you all can be a catalyst to bring it out, okay?
Thank you.
Brian Big.
Thank you.
Rachel Espine. So thank you for your presentations, and I'll keep it brief to one question and one comment. Firstly, my comment is, it's wonderful to see that the diverse people here were the heterosexual men. It would be nice to see that seeing it as a gender forum. And secondly, I think, Ms. Ameen, you or either you or Ms. Mohammed touched on it about the changing climate. But it feels as if it hasn't changed sufficiently enough. And I disagree with you saying how we're conservative. We're actually schizophrenic, right? So how is it that we can adapt and adjust to a quickly modernizing world, especially when the younger people are progressing in a rate that isn't keeping up to our politicians?
Could go ahead and respond. Y'all could go ahead and respond to her questions? No? Okay. Okay, hi, I'm Renelle White. I work at the IGDS. And this question I have is specifically for Jowelle and Nafeesa. Both representatives from San Fernando, right, during the campaign, saying that it was actually, I felt, before I asked the question, I felt like I didn't hear too much of your reflections on this post-election campaign. You all spoke a lot more on general vague ideas, and I was wondering if you all were told not to touch on specific issues or concerns. Right, but my question, I messaged you, Jowelle, to ask you to come on WinTV for a talk on my panel around your experiences as a transgender woman, and you wanted to know who would be on the panel, because you said specifically that you cannot, you were unable to be on any panel with Faris or the other lady, that's what I said in the text, which I assume is Nafeesa, and not her, someone else? Razia, right, okay, I mixed it up. So I wanted to know, what was your experience like during the campaign and post-campaign as well? Why weren't you allowed? Why didn't they want to be on the panel with you as a transgender person? And you said that you had a good experience, but from not being able to be on the panel, I don't think that you really did have such a welcoming, open experience, specifically with other candidates who were running against you. So I wanted to hear a little bit more on that. And also, Ms. Ameen, you spoke about the idea of tolerance, and I think we should disband that watchword as tolerance, but more use acceptance, Because to be tolerant of something is just to say, well, yeah, all right, I could take you on a little bit. But we need to be so much more accepting as opposed to tolerant. Yeah, thanks.
Hi, good evening. My name is Randy Mohan. I work Ministry of National Security. What I wanted to do is just make a quick observation. Ms. Mohammed's comments on 2015 being, a very unique election. But what I've noticed is that Mowlah has been involved in elections since 2000 in the Barataria Southern constituency, actually, of where Ms. Mohammed was a candidate. Yes. But what I've noticed, there's nothing unique. And in 2015, these issues have always been around. What is, I think, is just more of a forum for people to express whatever views they had with social media and technology. But there was no new issue that I saw that came up. So, thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. Good evening, everyone. Jeremy Edwards from Silver Lining Foundation and the COP Youth Congress, the latter of which, by the way, has always advocated for equality and as it relates to LGBT issues. So I'm just putting that on the record. I just wanted to make some observations in terms of the language being used. But before I do that, I want to congratulate UE and IGDS and all the panelists here, because it's good to have the major political parties being represented and talking about this issue. So I congratulate you for that. However, I think we have to move away, like Renelle said, from the word tolerance and from just saying that we need more discussion to actually dealing with the issue, because it's a discussion that we've been having for quite some time without any kind of tangible outcome. And I'm hearing people talking about walking the middle line and allowing for a transition. And I'm hoping the responses in the coming months and as the government progresses can be something a little bit more tangible, because the reality is, like Luke said, there are real and pressing issues that affect LGBT youths and people generally in the country. When Luke talked about the manifesto that we worked on in terms of homelessness, in terms of people getting access to government services and housing and that sort of thing, it's a real problem for a significant portion of the population. So, Jowelle, with the greatest amount of respect to you and for your bravery and courage in contesting the election, I really do think you and all the other parties had an obligation to come forward, even as a transgender candidate, and even in the other parties having LGBT candidates, whether known or otherwise, come forward and own the issue and offer some kind of meaningful representation, because it could have had such a positive impact on a lot of young people. And I think, myself included, they were very disappointed in that. So that for now would be just my observations. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cheryl Ann Budram, and I am a social worker. And I just want to say that I'm here today because I think for far too long, social work has really been silent on a lot of issues. And that would be okay, but I think now my realization is that social work is maybe silent, but more so it reinforces some of the unfair policies that tend to perpetuate a lot of the discrimination that we have. And one of the things that I can draw from my experience is that on a community level, working with people, with young people in communities, is that political participation is really not in the hands of people. It's not understood by persons who are young, by persons who are poor, by girls, by people who may be homeless. It's really out of the hands of those persons that we've pushed to the margins. And what does political participation really mean for them? And we still have a system of gatekeepers for people who want to enter into politics. So you still have to pass through those gates. We need to go back on a community level to help people to understand what the personal is, the political, yes, Luke, but we need to help people to understand what is participation and how can they participate, and for young girls to understand what leadership is about and not to put themselves on the periphery of leadership, feeling that leadership is something that is unattainable. And I want to just say to all of the panels here, make one comment and then perhaps and ask the question. The comment I want to make is that for a long time we make people feel as if they're participating politically, but waving a banner and putting on a yellow jersey, a white jersey, a red jersey, a purple jersey is not political participation. Putting up banners in the middle of the night and sticking flyers on a post is not political participation. Activism, I think, in this country is a privilege, and it belongs to a few people who have passed the gatekeeper system. And maybe we need to really look at that. And maybe it's designed that way to keep particular people out. There was in the elections this year, I noticed a dichotomy of campaigning. A campaign for persons for grassroots, the people who drink and go to the party and the rally with the movie-lang. And then another kind of campaigning, the town meeting where you sit down with an elite group of people and you talk manifesto and policies and plan. And as leaders, are we reinforcing that division of people by doing that, by not moving into real discussion and debate? And what is our role, all of you here that represent political parties, in really keeping people out of participation?
I have noticed previously, during the term of our former Prime Minister, whenever something was done, whenever she did anything, she would be judged as a woman, not as a politician. Not a problem with that, right? Because, I mean, yeah, she is a woman as well, but, you know, why? So she'll do something that people don't agree with. They'll be like, oh, this woman. And it's like, I have a real issue with that, right? So now transitioning to after elections, we say, oh, yeah, a lot of women are in politics now. That's great. Is it great? I mean, why are we saying, yeah, a lot of women are in politics? Why aren't we just glad we have politicians who we think are capable of running the country, that kind of thing? And I wonder if, because people really spoke badly of the former Prime Minister, not as the Prime Minister or as a politician, but as a woman who just happened to be Prime Minister at the time. So I wonder if that kind of stigma will transcend when the current female politicians we have now, if they do something good, bad, are they going to get praised as women or as politicians? I mean, that's a real issue, because the fact that we keep separating it, I mean, yeah, they're women, but they're politicians, right? So, I don't know, I would like to know what you think about that. Do you think that that'll be a problem? Is that something that the reputation that was left before, do you think that would affect the judgment people cast on these women who are politicians now?
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Carol Jagannath, former IGDS student and also master's student. Okay, my question is around the language of the term gender, because previously we have seen many ministries, many developed countries having the term Ministry of Gender, and I have held back from writing because I'm putting something together. I would like to know, in terms of subsuming gender into another ministry, what does that mean for, or another ministry, what does that mean for the voice of gender that is on the work that has gone and pioneered, works of NGOs, works of activists, works of conversations of women and narratives? How is that going to be treated? Because the awareness of the term gender seems to be a little bit invisible, but I know by this forum today that is by no means what's happening. So I just wanted to find out in terms of what is going to be, is it going to be very visible, or is it just going to be a voiceless whisper, or things like that? So, thanks.